Well, it's 5:59. We can sit here and take our feet.
Finance on that table, other table.
Well,
Thank you.
it's 6 p.m. We'll call the meeting to order. We'll begin with the land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge that we gather on the ancestral homelands of the Coast Salish peoples, specifically Nooksack and Lummi tribes, who have lived in the Salish Sea Basin throughout the San Juan Islands and the North Cascades watershed from time immemorial. On behalf of everyone here, we want to express our deepest respect and gratitude for our Indigenous neighbors, the Nooksack and Lummi tribes, for their enduring care and protection of our shared lands and waterways. Next up is pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So next up is approval of agenda. Nick, do we have any changes from this printed?
Not from the printed agenda.
In that case, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Motion to approve agenda is written. Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Good of order.
Yeah, so just a few things to go over for the good of the order. Had a chance to have our first community connection session at Harmony this week. That's that series of 5 sessions I'm holding with the community. And so I appreciate that Principal Todd Matthews joined me there. We had about 6 or 7 folks. It was a small but great turnout. Some of the topics that were discussed were questions about capital projects, some after school programming partnerships, class size, questions about gender inclusive policy, and questions about the permanent superintendent search. So I was able to address most of those in my communication with them. I directed them to you guys for the questions of the permanent superintendent search. The next community connection session is next week, the 17th, here at the secondary library from 5:30 to 6. And the people at the Harmony one reminded us that we should probably get the word out closer as just a quick reminder towards the end to get people there. Very happy to share that we confirmed that FFA will participate at both the Puget Sound Junior Livestock Show and Sale, as well as the Northwest Washington Fair. So I just wanted to say thank you to Mr. Reitmeyer and Mrs. Davis for making that happen and their continued support of our kiddos, because a lot of our kiddos look forward to that. So thanks. And then just a reminder that conferences are coming up. So secondary campus, their conferences are next week. And then elementary is Tuesday through Friday in 2 weeks. It's always a great time for teachers and staff and families to connect. So we're really looking for those opportunities. That's what I have for good of the order.
Well, thank you. And also
Next Thursday, we have conferences at the high school.
Yeah.
During that time, that you're gonna have your meeting.
Okay.
So just want to let you know.
Thank you.
So we're Thursday evening.
Perfect.
also want to thank the administration efforts for the making that junior livestock and fair funding happen.
Thank you.
Shifting and other work done that made that possible. So,
Thanks. It was a team effort for sure.
okay, next up is consent agenda. Entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve consent agenda. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Next up is information from the audience. Emmy, do we have anyone signed up? Thank you. So first up is Natalie Chavez.
Sorry, I public comments begin so quickly at this meeting. Hello, my name is Natalie Chavez. Thank you for listening to public comments this evening. At the last meeting, I mentioned that a father of a 17-year-old girl in Maine had found an unlabeled baggie at home with Zoloft in it after questioning his daughter. She had received the Zoloft at school at the school-based health clinic without parental consent. I want to remind you that Zoloft carries a black box warning, which warns of possible serious adverse reactions, indicating that the drug can cause suicidal ideation, particularly in people under the age of 24 when they are first start taking the drug. The teenager's parents kept this teenager at home from school the following week after discovering the baggie with Zoloft in it in order to make appointments with the doctor and the therapist. And that resulted in someone, either at the school or at the school-based health clinic, to contact Child Protective Services, who then investigated the family. Georgia Attorney Nicole Johnson stated, quote, "This case in Maine really is everything we worried about. It is almost the worst case scenario. A young person is getting a drug with a black box warning. They come home with it. It doesn't even have any warning label on it. The parents haven't been told, and the drug is in some plastic bag that any other child in the house or their peers could have access to. It could be a very dangerous situation." Now, the Bulldog Health Center at Lawrence High School in Fairfield, Maine, is reportedly gave the Zoloft to this teenager, offers primary care services on site to middle and high school students. It is operated by Maine's Health Reach Community Health Centers, a nonprofit funded largely by patient fees and grants. Health Reach reported it also received $4.8 million from the Health Resources and Services Administration, HRSA, of the United States Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, although further grant details were not available. HRSA also awarded approximately $25 million in 2022 to expand 125 school-based health clinics, including $81,728 to Health Reach. HRSA also awarded $5 million to 27 centers in 2021. These grants came in addition to $50 million in HHS grants authorized by the Biden administration and Congress in 2022 to states, quote, "for the purpose of implementing, enhancing, or expanding the provision," unquote, "of health care assistance through SBHCs using Medicaid or the Children's Health Insurance Program." Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next up is Nancy Button. So we have sign-ins and sign-ups. So if you just wish to sign in, that's fine. And Peggy, is that the same? Okay, thank you. Well, I welcome our neighboring school board members here to our meetings. So that gives us next is guest report, Athletic Director Ron Lipper. So Ron.
Good evening. So this will be somewhat straightforward. My premise for being here is I just wanted to keep the board up to date on kind of financially where we're at athletic wise after last spring's severe cuts that we had, right? And I'm not here to whine about it. I'm just here to be honest that where we're at right now, that moving forward next year, we would not be able to operate because of the way that we was able to acquire some money to help us continue on with our sports at the high school and junior high level this year. Whether that being, ASB, we can't go to them every year and ask for them to help out at both of those levels there. So just want to, and we've done without, we didn't, with certain things like, for example, there's safety equipment that the district needs to provide for certain athletic, like for example, football, it's helmets, shoulder pads, and knee pads and stuff like that. For basketball or baseball and softball, it's catching gear, it's helmets, that kind of stuff. And then obviously, we were trying to work on uniform rotation and so on. And so, a lot of that stuff was cut out this year. I didn't realize how bad it was when I saw the soccer team and, I said, hey, you got a little something on your jersey there. That was actually the jersey. And so it's like, I did not feel really good about that. If I would have known that was that bad, I probably would have found a way to get them some stuff there, but we've had to, where we're at. So I just want to give you some numbers. That's what we had to do, okay? And I will admit that when I was asked to do that work in the spring, I tried to do the best of my ability, and just a reminder that we did cut 72% of the athletic budget from what I had as a district athletic budget to where we were at the beginning of the school year to what we needed to do moving forward. And so there's certain things that we'll take care of that I forgot about. I just didn't think about it because I was thinking about trying to keep this, the programs in, keeping our coaches and kids and doing stuff. So transportation was big, obviously, and officials was big. So a few things, okay, in no particular order. All right. First of all, just a nice shout out to Dr. Heiner and Dr. Fox, Jason and Laura for providing free physicals this year. We finally, it's something I've been wanting to do for years. I finally was able to get it organized with the help of a lot of other people too. And it was awesome. We did over 40 physicals that day for kids, free physicals for kids doing athletics. And it wasn't just football, it was all sports. So it was awesome to get those people there. And then we had a couple, Heather Rodriguez and I can't remember her first name, but her last name is Harkness, as a freshman girl.
Cassie.
There we go. See, they were there to help take down information, blood pressure. That's what the doctors just had to do the actual physical itself. So that was community members donated money to pay for equipment van this summer because we couldn't take the cube van that we have for the district for football equipment. That was about a $600 expense. So we could take the team to the football camp. We had a community member donate $10,000 to buy football equipment this year that we didn't have. And so that's stuff we have to have. I mean, updating junior high and high school, both helmets, shoulder pads, that kind of stuff. So I had a few chips in my pocket that have been there for a while, and I used a couple of them this year. And so that's kind of a significant thing. So that's stuff that we didn't use that would have been bought out of the district athletic budget. The football program itself spent another $5,000 for helmets, okay? Because the helmets that we currently have are times they're not, for some reason, there's something not right with the pads. So we have changed to a new brand, which is, kids like them. I like them. We've kind of stayed away from those because they were a little more expensive than we had. They're both 5-star helmets, but these are going to be better for us. So doing that. Community members donated time to paint the football goalposts before the first game this year. Okay, so we just didn't have, our people that do that work are stretched right now, and we know that. And so on a Saturday morning, there was 4 or 5 community members that went out and helped paint that, and 3 of us were employees of the district. It's a little, because we need to get that done. Okay. Another community member donated around just under $4,000 to help us buy a new machine for painting the lines on our fields. Okay, something that we needed to have, to get those done. That's junior high, high school, softball, baseball, soccer, football. It covers a lot of things there. One thing I, again, didn't know, we get back the first week, and we have membership fees to be in the WIA, and we have L&I fees for officials, and that was around $5,000 at the beginning of the school year. Like all of a sudden I get this bill and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. So then that comes out of the district athletic budget that I oversee. Final forms, that's the clearance program that we use. That's the $2,000, this year based on the number of kids we have at our school, but it makes life a lot easier, but it does cost money. And then our league, we have league dues and district dues and stuff like that. I didn't put those down there because they're not quite as high, but it's probably around just $500-600 for that stuff. But we also required in football and basketball, both boys and girls, that we're on video exchange programs, or everybody in the league has to do it. So we have to have a platform for that. And between those 3 platforms, it's about $6,000 that we have to spend. And I've paid for that because we got to have it. So it's not like, well, hey, basketball just wants to have it because it's cool. It's no, we need to exchange film with other schools in our conference and doing that. So that's kind of where we're at right now. I have no idea how much we spent on, transportation and stuff. My biggest thing going into this was transportation and officials, and doing that. But I know there's other things out there, and so as we continue to move forward, we'll keep up to date with that. Hopefully I can find out where we're at. Again, off the top of my head, I want to say starting the season, we had about $97,000 to spend for officials and transportation. Transportation is our biggest issue. You know, I mean, I should say issue, expense. So that's kind of where we're at there. Also, just this week, or actually last week, our ice machine broke. So we don't have an ice machine, which is kind of a big deal. So we're in the process of getting that. I talked with Nick, and it sounds like we're gonna be able to do that with some capital money. So I'm in the process today of getting that stuff so it gets here. But I've been going to Dotson's, or I call it Dotson's. Nugent says area there buying ice for us that we need to have. Because we, like, if somebody gets dinged up in practice right now, we don't have the ice machine. We've had to do that stuff, and it's kind of important to have that, at that command. And it's not only just sports. Science classes use it. Other people who use it, like if there's a celebration, whatever, they're having to get together and they need ice for keep things cold. We have that. It can do that because it holds about 450 pounds of ice, but it's not working at this time. So it might still be a couple of weeks. So we'll be going tomorrow and get more ice for this weekend and stuff. So, but that's kind of where we're at. I mean, I know that some of the other sports have done some fundraising to do some things, to get some stuff, which has been great. Volleyball did some stuff so they can get some uniforms fixed. I told them I'm not going to help with that, but I wanted just to realize, like, moving into next year when we get going. I knew this was going to be a tough year. I'll be very honest with you. I worked, I've really tried to do my best in the spring to do all this stuff here and kind of live with it. Then as the summer went on, I came back. I probably wasn't very happy for the first couple of weeks here. I was not in a very good place. I was not happy. So got through that now and we're moving here. But I just wanted, when we go to fund next year, we've got to get back up there where we can do some of the things that we need to do for kids. Because I just, we've lost some kids from our school, to just because of uncertainty of that. We've been able to keep that there, and it's been great. I mean, we had this largest number we've had in football this year in 15 years coming out. Soccer's numbers up, or junior high numbers are up. But if we don't have those things here, those kids will go somewhere else. They just will play. They'll just do that. So, all right, I think that's kind of it. I'm trying to be not too much of a downer, but just kind of keep you guys up to date. Like I said, I talked with Mr. Fox about this and Nick that I'd come by every couple of months, maybe, and just kind of give an update where we're at. Okay. Any questions I can answer for you?
Go ahead. Board members, Jason?
No, I don't have any.
Brandon?
So you mentioned participation's up in football, soccer. Does it seem like across the board?
Yeah, I mean, across the board a little bit. A couple of sports, not quite, but like soccer girls, last couple of years, we've been lucky to have 13, 14 girls. We got like 22, which is great, but it's not great because we don't have enough for JV teams. So those girls play. But we were able to play a JV game today where it was like 8-on-8. So those girls can get a chance to play before the other game. I'm looking at junior high football's numbers are up. Softball numbers are up. Boys soccer was up. So, I mean, it's kind of getting back to that a little bit. I was shocked, to be honest with you. We have 65 kids in the football program. Last year we had 42.
Great.
So that also meant we had to get some equipment.
Yeah.
Which is a good problem to have.
What do you think's driving the increase in participation?
I just think kids are ready to kind of get back and get involved and stuff. I know, like last year at junior high football, there was like maybe 13 or 14 eighth graders, and we've got like 21, 22 this year. Talking to a couple of kids that said, "Hey, man, we just want to play football," and stuff. And so I just think the kids are wanting to get back out and doing that. So
Well, thanks for leading the charge and all this effort.
yeah. So
Danielle?
go ahead.
She's got a pulse.
I know. She had to look. I know.
I hope you brought a cot.
That's my. I remember her in the classroom too. So I can say that because she was a former student. So.
I was just gonna say at some point, it might be helpful for us to get a firmer number of how much you feel like you're short.
Okay.
Right? So that as the board, we've got a sense of.
I guess,
careful note.
yeah, and I guess I'm not really sure because, like, so for example, we used to have all these different things, like money came out of this account for transportation, money came out of this for this, and then a couple years ago we just said, okay, here's what you get, and here's everything's gonna come out of that.
Yeah.
And so the number I had to start with was $200,000 a year, which we never went over. I'm very frugal that way. Like that's not gonna happen ever. And then the first round of cutbacks, 2 years ago, we had to cut 10%, so we were 180. And then last year, I had to cut 130,000 out of 180, and that's like, like I said, going back, high school ASBs offered to give this much money for this year only. Junior high ASB, same thing. The gate money that we get, so all the sports that we have that we charge admission for, that money goes into a certain account. It's called the gate account. And then that money is redispersed through all the programs. Okay, whether they bring in money or not. This is kind of how it works in the real world, like how the college football brings in a lot of money, right? So I did not just redistribute the amount I usually do because I knew this was gonna be tough this year. So we have some extra money there that I know we're gonna probably have to use for officials or transportation. Right, so that's, there, so and the problem is I never really got a number, like at the end of the year, we finished that. Where did we finish? But I know probably safely speaking out of that $180,000 or $200,000, the biggest chunk was transportation. Now, the transportation formula has helped us, so we're saving like $4 a mile than we used to. So that's awesome, right? But that's gonna be something big. So I don't really know where that'd be. And hopefully this year we're gonna be able to track that. We're doing some things in the office too, so we can say where we're at.
We've got a firmer picture.
Yes. So maybe next year I might say, hey, we need to have $147,000 to be able to run an athletic budget. I'm not sure.
Okay.
And then obviously when we had some extra money left over before the school year, we upgraded things like, so on the track, we got new pole vault pits, we got new high jump pits, we got, that was stuff that was bought with that money. A pitching machine for the baseball program, we did, I'd kind of wait to make sure we had everything else covered before we did that. And then allocation for uniform, we have a rotation every year, groups are up and they come back up, I think every 4 years for uniforms. If you want to get uniforms for that, you want to fundraise, go ahead. But then that's it, okay, this is, if you want the fanciest thing on the market, that's great, but we're only going to give you this amount of money, you got to go get the rest of it. But we know right now that's not taking place, so.
Okay, and then I just have one comment.
Yeah.
One of the things that you didn't bring up that was cut from your budget was also your hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to acknowledge that you're continuing to, as many folks are, to do the work that we need done with not the same compensation. And I want to acknowledge that.
Yeah, thanks. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know how to do anything different. I'm not going to not do my job.
Okay, well, I just,
I appreciate that. I mean, I think that's one of the things I was not happy about as I thought about it more. But then again, what am I, so yeah, I appreciate that.
but I want to acknowledge that.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Of the expenses that you delineated before, have you identified any other than possibly the ice machine that could be capital expenditures?
That's it so far. That would be the only one that I could see,
Because that's, that's generally a better.
Yeah, I'm different. That's why I came to talk to Nick about
Yeah.
it, because I had somebody else lined up to help with that if I couldn't get it done through the school.
I'm glad that you bring it to us early in the year. So it's something that the administration can continue to work with you on and hopefully resolve.
Well, and I don't want to feel like I'm just coming begging for money. I'm not saying I do, but to do things we all know things cost things. I mean, that's, and again, I was not happy when all of a sudden I was like, son, this freaking L&I, are you kidding me? What for what? I wasn't off work, but it's, I was not very happy then. Oh yeah, that's why I have this. It's just those things that, because we've always just taken care of them. I didn't think about those things. I was thinking, I think probably bigger picture of stuff and getting in there, right? And then doing that. So
our goal is to put the district back on a sustainable footing.
no,
I think that you've done a lot of work to help us.
and that's what I want to. And I told everybody this to be a tough year. But I want to just, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't remind you guys that what we're doing now is not going to be sustainable for us in that realm. It's just not going to be sustainable. So, and I'm not looking to say, hey, we need to get way more money we've ever gotten. That's not what I'm asking. It's just that, and we'll have a better idea. And one of the things that's tangible or we can't control is the transportation part of thing, right? Like this year, just the way it worked out, we have a lot of away games for our sub-varsity football, or we travel on more than this way, or teams won't play, so we got to go find games. I mean, it doesn't good to have a team if you can't go play. So we try to be mindful of that. So when we can, we take support vehicles instead of a bus, right? Plus we're short of bus drivers. So we have one coach who's a sub bus driver who's like driving next Monday and Tuesday for junior high sports because we don't have the buses drivers that week. And he doesn't charge when he's coaching, it's just drive the bus there and back, right? So I mean, so there are a ton of people, just not me, there's a ton of people pitching in trying to make this work. Cause bottom line, the kids, man, we're trying to make sure that the kids have the chance to do the thing.
And on items like the transportation budget, you'll remember quite a few years ago when we were combing the whole district for blank checks. That was one of the items that we identified that we needed to set a budget for, and that it's a number we have to keep making sure that it's accurate and reasonable, but I think I would not want to go back to that era where we had too many open checkbooks.
Yeah, no, I'm not asking for that. Yeah. I mean, that's not what I'm trying to imply at all. I just know what we've done now, where we're at. Because honestly, between the two ASBs and what I got from getting is going to be over $30,000. It's like almost 40,000. So almost half the budget we actually have this year to spend is money that was pretty much just asked for, hey, this year, can you help us out? A one-time deal, right? I mean, it's.
Do you have numbers on how many students are participating in sport?
I looked at today because I did something like, and this doesn't mean they play multiple sports. So talk about all the kids sign up. We're between the high school and junior high, we have like over 600 kids, I know 500 for sure. I think it was 600 kids that are signed up to do sports.
Wow.
So it's over 500, right?
That's a pretty decent percentage of our overall student population. And when you look at the impact on sports, on student success and retention and bringing in enrollment, that's important for us to keep in mind, that retention and enrollment are funding. Right? So that's.
That's it. I mean, and because I just know because if a kid does multiple sports, he accounts for three things. But I know it's like, I know the number was over. I was like, ooh, I don't know. There's a lot that are signed up. So
I'd also take this opportunity to remind us about legislative advocacy. You know, our levies could go more towards athletics as the state fully funded what they're supposed to fund. Right? You think about how much levy funds have to go towards MSOCs and those types of things.
Right.
That's a big.
No, I like I said, I get it, and I live in the district, so I mean,
exactly.
That's the other thing. I'm a little more invested maybe than some because I have been here for 30 years.
And I will say that the discussions that I've had with legislators, as well as ones Nick has had and Brian, are pointing to that, you know, to at least some recognition of both special ed and MSOC. Those are two that weigh very heavily cost-wise on our budget, that the state doesn't cover the full expense. So I think if we'll continue to work during the year to resolve this problem, but we also have to see how the legislation turns out too.
And we'll have another discussion there. I think, but I just want to keep you guys aware. So this all of a sudden becoming, in May, and I've got this long list of stuff, and you guys are like, what, it'd be nice to know ahead of time. I'm just trying to stay up on it. So next time here, it might only be 3 things.
But I will say the board has made a strong statement of support for co-curricular.
No, I
And
totally
so
get it. That's good to hear that
it
they're
is
gonna.
a board objective.
It's gonna be good because, the talk was there's gonna be no FFA at the fair next year, which that would be criminal.
Right.
I mean, for not Baker not being there for that.
Right.
So, but I know there's other things on there, so it's good to hear that that's on the plan, so. Okay, well, I'm taking more time.
Yeah, well, thank you.
My number, everybody's got it, so if you have questions, feel free to reach out. I have to go to another event, so. We'll see you. So, okay.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you. So next up is board's comments, and I'll start with you this time.
I just wanted to take a moment. I know we talked about the upcoming parent-teacher conferences that are happening. I wanted to, since our last board comment period, I got to attend open house at Harmony Elementary, and I know that our other elementaries do open house as well, but that's where my kiddos are at. And so I was there with that hat on, but I just wanted to give a moment of appreciation to all of our staff for those long days that they put in to connect with our families and our community and make sure that at the start of the school year, that bridge happens and is strengthened and that students get a chance to sort of
Mhm.
show off that learning space and that our staff are making that happen. And so a thank you for that. And then I also just wanted, I know you sent this out to the whole district, but I wanted to acknowledge the life and years of service of our music teacher from Kendall, Cindy Henninger, who recently passed away. Is someone that I knew personally for many years, gave a lot of love to this community, and I just wanted to take a moment to honor her life and her service for the district. So that's what I have for today.
Thank you.
I don't have anything.
I don't have anything.
I just got a couple things that, one big thing is I do a lot of sports. I go to a lot of sports. I go to a lot of extra stuff, trap shooting, choir and band. I got a nephew in it and, just for our kids, they do a really good job at the games of being respectful. They cheer on the whole game. A lot of respect shown and just for the kids. So people know that you see that they do a really good job and that gets overseen some from bad sometimes. So just so everybody's aware of that. Saturday, I'm going to attend the pet partner therapy evaluation Saturday morning. So I'm going to go do that and see how that goes. And then just a proud uncle. Today was my niece's first day as a sub para educator here at Baker. So, that was kind of cool and she really enjoyed it. So, yeah.
Well, thank you. You may need to wear your Kevlar chaps on Saturday.
Yeah, sounds like it might be interesting.
Also, if you want to sub as a parent, that is permissible, so
Yeah.
we'll take anybody. Okay.
Probably not me.
Yeah, great. Tish. So, I have, was the General Assembly, last time I covered discussed the Mount Baker's top 10 legislative priorities. And so we discussed that. Nick and I met with Whatcom County Council member John Scanlon in sort of to the little timber sale with the hopes that the council would not write a letter to the Department of Natural Resources asking the sale to be paused. The council decided not to send a letter. So I was pleased with that because a letter requesting a pause invariably results in a pause. And that sale is almost $300,000 minimum bid, and sales have been going for 30 to 60% above minimum bid. So it consists of about 40% of our next year's sale program for timber sales. And then also at the Board of Natural Resources, I testified on behalf of Mount Baker School District in support of the Little Lily sale. The board approved the Little Lily sale at that meeting. And interestingly enough, Superintendent Chris Reichdahl did not speak up against the Little Lily sale. I think he's sensitive enough to Mount Baker after hearing so much from him that he found another one to complain about in Mason County, but he didn't speak against us. So I thought that's a little bit of a notch up. However, can't count your chickens before they hatch, because after those sales were approved, a environmental organization from Tacoma is threatening to sue to block 5 of the 9 sales, including Little Lily, which will, if they follow through with that, will throw it into court. Of course, however long that process takes, and also I'm concerned about there'll be a change in the state land commissioner with this election, and so that may affect whether the state continues supporting those sales in court or just withdraws. So that's why I say we can't count our chickens before we hatch, but we'll keep trying as much as we can. Whoever wins the land commissioner race our WASDA Trust Lands Committee will invite them for a meeting at our WASDA annual convention. So we'll get a chance to get our 2 cents in there. And also met with the community relations, after I testified at Board of Natural Resources, community relations person from Hampton Lumber asked to meet with me, and they're looking for how they can help support school districts and other junior taxing districts. And she offered to help fund district programs, particularly co-curricular programs, small funds, but I should, and Ron has already left, but so as we think about funding sources for things that we're a bit short on, that would appeal to a lumber company that wishes to donate for goodwill in the community, that's one resource of, several $1,000s at a time, so I thought I would bring that back to us and keep it in the back of your minds or in the front of your minds. So that's all I have. Presentation. We have Northwest Leadership Associates here tonight. We're discussing the consent process timeline. And the timeline, I think this is fine here, Nick, if you'd like to stay, because I think I would like to have, so we're looking at times and we need to see if those times mesh or clash with other things that are going on in the district. So I will, I think you met everyone except Brenna.
Correct.
And I think, yeah.
We met on the way in.
So take it away.
All right. Well, thank you for your time tonight. Wayne Robertson, back to the audience with Northwest Leadership Associates, and Sue Laurel Browning. We are, you think of Northwest Leadership Associates, we're 2 of the associates, I guess, 2 of 10 or so. And Northwest Leadership, as the board knows, is a superintendent search firm, very active in the state of Washington, lots of experience, lots of searches, and we're honored to have been selected to do your search. So we're kind of getting ready to hit the ground running here and make this a reality. And so, as Russ mentioned, the big deal tonight is to come as close as we can to locking in on the timeline. And I think having district representatives here that know the calendar and know what the conflicts might be, that's great. And we also have to be mindful of individual board members' conflicts. So it's good to have a chance to conversation. So we shared an agenda, just our talking points, very informal, much of which was we went over when Mark and Laurel and I were here earlier. So I'm not going to rehash all of that, but I think spending some time on the timeline and maybe fleshing out a few details on the process, seeing if there are any questions. We want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. We'll have multiple opportunities as the search unfolds to lock in on what the semifinalist interviews look like and what the finalist interviews look like. So we don't have to drill all the way into that tonight, but we certainly want to answer questions. So I don't know if you want to call the timeline up or if board members have it.
Yeah.
I have some hard copies.
Did you have that? Did we put it on the screen?
Anybody wants a hard
I wasn't
copy?
prepared.
And I
I have
can't
one.
share mine, otherwise
We got it.
I.
You got it?
Danielle wants everybody has it. Thank you.
Showing my age by bringing.
Or do we
hard
not
copy.
have, is
Oh,
no,
I
is
really
there
like
nobody
it.
online?
Always. It's hard. No,
Any
I
of you want a
don't.
hard copy?
I have a hard copy.
Okay.
Yep, I printed
All
it.
right.
And it is in your board docs.
Yes, it's in your board docs and our agendas in the board docs. What we're gonna do with the agendas, we'll just kind of go through. Much of it will get covered when we talk about the timeline, but we've got, Laurel and I have kind of divided the agenda up, and I'm gonna start us off and we'll take it from there. So, in the earliest proposal, we sent you a couple of tentative timelines, A and B, and now this is C. And basically this timeline works for Laurel, Mark, and Wayne. we don't know how it matches up with the district, and we don't know how it matches up with your individual. So we can get at some of that. Many of these activities on the timeline are work that's done outside of meetings and that sort of thing. So you don't need to worry too much about that, other than keeping track of how the search is progressing. The ones where we all come together in some shape or form for an event, those are a little more significant. So that's what we really kind of want. So once we set a closing date, I'm just going to kind of go down the timeline. Once we set the closing date, we can post a position on WASA and WASDA because they require that as part of their posting. So this has a closing date of February 21. And that's a good, this is we're still in the sweet spot. Basically, we took the earliest proposal that was submitted and backed everything up a week to accommodate our schedule and some other potential conflicts. So the February 21 would be the proposed closing date, subject to your approval, obviously. So once we get that, we get it posted on WASA and WASDA. So that kind of gets the search out there, and people that are following this sort of thing, possible applicants, whomever it might be, just get a heads up. We don't have to have all of the vacancy announcement and all of that work done at that point, but it lets the WASA and WASDA websites and our website and WALA's website and any other websites that we can think of, lets us know. Also lets your community know what the timeline is anticipated to be. So that's something to think about. I'm kind of through now and next week and the 25th or so, we want to do a few things. Finalize the search plan, get some communication things going with your district website, work with Tammy on that, get the pre-announcement on WASA and WASDA. We meaning Mark, Laurel, and I start talking to people as it comes up on WASA and WASDA. That's when we start getting some phone calls. And we'll say, still a work in progress, but here's a closing date. Here's what we know about the district. And then people start tuning into your board meetings and following you on social media and all of that sort of thing.
Who all from your group is going to be at WASDA?
Say that again?
Who all from your group is going to be at WASDA?
Mark will be there. It's in Spokane, so I probably won't be there. I don't know. We haven't talked about.
Okay.
Mark will be there, and then Tom Rockefeller, our CEO,
Okay.
CFO, will be there. I don't know. Sometimes Dennis Ray, since he lives near Spokane, sometimes he goes. And then some of the other associates will be there. We'll have a table at WASDA.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a good question. I'm glad you pointed that out. I go when it's in Bellingham or Bellevue, and those guys cover that. Mark gets to go because he's on the MBSD-Board.
Okay.
So that's part of our, that works. So anyway, and we start talking about through October, we start talking about the brochure, and Laurel's going to talk a little more about the brochure later. That's kind of the formal vacancy announcement that's got the information about the qualifications and the characteristics, and that has to follow the focus group work that we're going to do, which is coming up on the timeline as well. But we start talking about it now. You just did one in 2018, so we've kind of got a pretty much a template. The community might have changed a little bit, and then certainly you might want to update the qualifications and the attributes and that sort of thing as part of the brochure. But essentially, we've got the template, so it's going to come together fairly quickly. So we'll work with Tammy and with district staff on that and get that moving along. That's through October. We start thinking about what the leadership profile is going to look like. We get you a link to online survey, English and Spanish we've talked about earlier, and then you post that on your website. You also push it out to whatever distribution list you have in mind. The leadership, the online survey kind of matches up with the focus group in that it asks 3 questions. What's going well in the district? What are the challenges facing the new superintendent? And what attributes are you looking for in the next superintendent?
It'll be written responses, not a multiple
That's
choice.
right. Then there's a numerical rating scale. So you get averages and that sort of thing. And there's a place for comments.
Okay.
And it's obviously the focus groups are small group meetings. We tell people they're confidential, but the online survey is really confidential. And it comes, once we close it out, and we'll talk about when that's gonna happen. You get a report that summarizes the numerical ratings people give by group. It has them identify themselves as a parent or a staff member or administrator. And then you get averages and that sort of thing, but then you get all of the comments. And the comments are generally what's really telling. And people can do focus group and the online survey. In fact, that's kind of a good thing to do. So they get ample, just more input for in a variety of formats. We do it English and Spanish. Truth to be told, we don't get as much participation from the different languages. I think it's kind of an Anglo thing to fill out surveys and that sort of thing. And it's harder to get numbers that are very significant. And we've tried multiple approaches. The one that seems to work best is to get a bunch of people together with a liaison person that they know and trust, have interpreter available, and let the liaison person kind of facilitate the conversation. We listen in, and sometimes you get a little better participation and maybe more genuine input on that. But anyway, the survey is a tool, and we need to, the object of the game is to get that input and that participation from your staff, community, and all of your input. So we'll get that going in early November. And then the big date probably that has to come up, hopefully out of this conversation, would be the focus group meetings. And the focus group meetings are small group conversations with staff, with a community meeting probably in the evening, where we ask those same 3 questions. One of us, we've got three of us, so we can split up. And one of us will facilitate the conversation, and we just basically take those questions, people talk, take notes, and later on we synthesize that into a focus group report, which we share with you at a board meeting. When we did your focus groups last time in 2018, we did them actually over 2 days. We started about 1 o'clock one day and then went through the afternoon. And I'm not sure what the reason was, because typically we do them in 1 day. We start early, go all the way through, and with 3 of us doing, I think we can do it in 1 day, which is a little more compact. I think possibly the issue with your community was with your distances between your schools, people from Acme going to Kendall or whatever, just people didn't think that was going to happen. We can, with 3 of us, one of us go to Acme, one of us go to Kendall, and cover all the schools.
So the board members are not part of the focus group. That's something that you do.
A piece of the focus group schedule is an individual session with each of the board members, which can be in person, which can be Zoom, it can be a telephone, it could even be a day later if the conversation can't get scheduled. So that's kind of where you come in. And that gives us an opportunity to connect better with each of you as individuals. You're still not, as individuals, you're not speaking for the board, but you're talking about what you think is most important, and we can kind of get a better sense of all that. Gives us a chance to talk about some confidential kinds of things that maybe you wouldn't want to bring out in a setting. So it's really pretty important piece of the process. We want to know what each of you, and then collectively what you think in terms of particularly the challenges and the opportunities and the attributes that you're looking for in the next. So we'll try to do that. Now, the dates we've proposed are November 4 through November 6, one of those dates. And you know what November 5 is, the election date. So I'm guessing probably not that date. So
Yeah, I don't think we'll.
4 or 6.
Might have people distracted.
Yeah,
Just a
yeah,
little.
little bit. So, we don't know what you think about that time frame. Could be a week later, but those are dates that work for us, and it's about the same time frame that we proposed on the earlier setup. So be thinking about that. I kind of think the 4th is a good idea. You can remind people to vote.
I'm busy on the 5th, but the 4th.
Pardon?
I'm busy on the 5th, but the 4th and the 6th are fine. for me.
And these
But that's for
are
that.
community meetings with not necessarily
No.
board members present, so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
the
then I
one,
think
the
it's
one that you probably, other than your individual meeting, we think it's a good idea if we have a community meeting, like say 6 o'clock, and you invite the community, it's well advertised. People know what the purpose is and how it relates to the search. I think it's a good idea, and we facilitate it, but I think it's a good idea for board members, if they're available, to be there and just see what the
Yeah.
community has to say. At the front end of the search, but
Yeah,
it's
I'll,
not,
I'll be gone that week, but that isn't,
yeah,
Yeah,
there
I
you go.
will too, but.
Yeah, okay.
And we report it by group, so you'll
Mhm.
see all the comments by each
Yeah.
group.
And then when we, so think about those dates, over 6 probably, or to be named later. And then we come back, I think you have a board meeting on November 14.
yeah.
And if you do, and if this works with the focus groups, we would come back at that board meeting, just kind of like this, and give you a short report. It'd be our summary of the focus group findings. Some districts shut off the survey, so that's included with the focus group report. Some districts keep the survey open till maybe a couple of weeks before the closing date, so that there's kind of an ongoing opportunity for input to the process. And then we shut it off at, say, that 2-week window, and then generate the summary report for you. So you've kind of got anything, any input that somebody might want to share after the.
So to finalize the brochure and approved by the board on the 18th, so the only meeting we have the only regular school meeting we have in November is the 14th.
Okay.
The finalization of the brochure doesn't really need board action. I think it's consensus,
Okay.
and you'll have had input into the process.
Yeah, we would have looked at 95% of it
Yes.
4
Yes.
days earlier.
Yeah.
You probably, as the board president, are kind of the final say on that. So you can kind of process it with the board however you want. Really isn't a vote. It's just,
Right.
yeah, that looks good. Or I think, it's kind of like a wordsmithing by committee, which is the most painful thing in the world. But there's kind of no way to avoid it. And we want to get it, at the end of the day, it isn't the determinant as to whether somebody's going to apply for the job. The characteristics, qualifications, and that is the writing prompt. So that helps them guide their application, but it's a thematic kind of submittal. So it's not word for word if something isn't quite the way it needs to be. They all look pretty much the same, but we want we want it to have your blessing. So we'll work on that. So in terms of meetings, Russ, your meeting on the 14th would be when you get the focus group report. And then shortly after that, we'd start sharing a draft with you of, okay, you've seen the focus group report. This is what we think people said. We think, we've got kind of a bank of these statements about the qualifications and characteristics. Oh, they need one about finance. Well, of course they do. So we've got something in there that speaks to finance. Need something about levies. They want community engagement. The attributes are fairly similar with like districts. So the 14th be a board meeting presentation, and then shortly after that, the brochure with some behind the scenes work. I assume Tammy is kind of our point person.
Yes.
On the document generation, and we've got lots of samples, and we can work that through. And then we have a desktop publisher that we work with. So once we get the content, we get it to that person, and she generates multiple drafts as we need them. And then when it's finally done, it goes out. And so we're shooting for, and the 11/18 date is kind of where we'd like to have the brochure finalized. That's right around WASDA. I think WASDA
Yeah.
either then or right after. So if we get the posting out on the street at WASDA, then there's an opportunity for candidates to check in with us at the WASDA table and that sort of thing. It's just better than doing it a week after WASDA. Might as well take advantage of that. So that's what we're kind of thinking about those terms. When we get the brochure finalized, it goes out by email to our distribution list nationwide, 3,000 plus people. all of whom will not apply. But it goes out, and that's kind of the reach. So when people say, is this a national search or not a national search? Everything's a national search with the internet. People, you'll get applicants from out of state. We always do. So that goes out. Districts typically put the document as a link to it on your website. So your community can kind of know what's gone out there. Your staff can kind of know what's gone out there. When we put the information on your website, we typically have the timeline. We have announcements of the process, any of the major steps, so that there's kind of no surprises and your community can kind of stay engaged. And they know that that's a place to go and look for information about the search. So then after the brochure goes out with the mass mailing, the distribution, from your end, it's pretty quiet. So that's when we're doing our targeted recruiting. We send a brochure and a little pitch of an email out, we meaning the three of us, to probably 70, 80 people that for some reason have declared their interest in jobs like this. And we think, oh, so-and-so might be ready. You know, we approached them about Granite Falls and the timing wasn't right because their kid was a senior in high school. Well, that kid's not a senior in high school now. So those are the kind of people that we're looking for. That is this the opportunity? Is the timing right? Are they a fit? That sort of thing. Those are the people we try to reach out to. So we do that, you know, behind the scenes. We're meeting with candidates, answering questions, all of that sort of thing. But just so that you don't think we've lost track or forgotten about you, we come back after the first of the year, and I think you have a meeting on January 9. Is that right? I may have missed that one. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And that's when we give you a mid-search report. We tell the candidates that their name is not released to anybody, including the district, until they're invited for an interview. So at the mid-search report, we'll tell you, we sent out 90 emails. We sent out the mass distribution. We sent out 90 targeted emails to people. Here's a breakdown of who those people were. So many of them are superintendents. So many of them are district administrators. Some of them are principals. Some of them have their doctorate. Try to give you a sense of what the diversity of that group might look like. So we're just giving you an update as kind of what we've been doing since we last talked to you in November. And we start gearing up for the interviews that are going to follow after the closing date. So it's just a little short check-in, public meeting, not executive session or anything like that, and no confidential information is shared. Okay, then the job closes on the 21st, subject to your approval, of course. Then,
Can you back up a second?
sure,
Board work session preparation also.
it's just at a public meeting. I don't know why he, meaning somebody in our company, put board work session. It's just a
It's just a
conversation.
board meeting.
But it says preparation for interview phase.
It's just to remind you what the interview, the two rounds of interviews are going to look like, how you're involved, make sure we're squared up on the time and the sequence of events. When you did, there's a couple ways interviews happen at superintendent searches. Some of them, usually there's two rounds, almost always, kind of a preliminary round, 5 or 6 semifinalists, and then a more deeper dive with 3 finalists probably. At the semifinalist level, some districts do that in the executive session, so it's closed to the public, and some districts do it in open session, so it's open to the public. We still feel very strongly that the board conducts the interview. There's not this 20-person interview team.
Right.
The board's conducting the interview, but if you do it in open session, you have people in the audience that can observe that happening, and there's a feedback mechanism for them to have some input. When you did it in 2018,
Yeah,
we did it in open session.
I thought it was very successful when we did it last time. I think the public appreciated that, and they got actually to know the semifinalists.
Yep.
You know,
And
in person,
Sure.
and so I think it was very valuable.
And they see the board at work. I mean, I think that's really important, that this is not just some good old boy club bringing up a handful of people, and they see you guys interviewing and, you know, making this work the way it's supposed to be working. So that's almost always our recommendation, to do it in open session, unless there's a reason, and it's up to the board. But I think, given your history, given the fact that you did it in open session last time, unless there was some compelling reason to not do that, I would think you'd want to do it in open session. It's just basically a room. I think we did it in this room, didn't we, Russ? I think we did. We do it, we're out in the school.
It was a bigger room. I think we did in the library, maybe.
I think you're right. Yeah, you're right. I remember that. Now that's coming back. So let me back up just a little bit. Let's see, now where are we? We're on the
Application.
Application deadline.
application deadline, the 21st. Okay, shortly before, like 2 days or so before the application deadline, we start sending you applications electronically, set up a confidential kind of Dropbox or you know, some electronic storage device that you can access, but that's not easily accessed by anybody else. And we'll get the candidates submit their applications to us electronically. They go to me, Laurel, Mark, and Dennis Ray. Dennis takes the candidate's application when it comes in, looks through it, and we specify what their application is supposed to include. Usually, application form, a resume, letter, a statement in response to the qualifications and characteristics. That's kind of the big piece that they submit. And then 4 to 6 letters of recommendation. Dennis goes through that, and if anything's missing, he tells them. If anything's inappropriate, he tells them, kicks it back to them. And if anything is, and then he puts them in order. So when you get them, they're all in the same order. So you're not going, where's the resume, you know, that kind of stuff.
So do you look at credentials only at the semifinalist level?
As
No,
we look at
We
them,
read every single
we read
file.
everything as,
So I mean, as far as like their educational credentials and those things.
we look,
If you've got a list, if the ones that don't go on to semifinalists, are they?
when we, I'm gonna get to that really next.
Okay.
Let me just finish this part about how you get the files. So you get all the application files. Some of them come in early, most of them come in right at the 11th hour, just like your kid's doing homework. You know, there's no sense getting it in early, really. Why would you do it very much early, other than you might get a chance to redo something? And so they'll come in over right around the closing date. We get you access to all the files, so you can read everything. We don't pre-screen them, and so then we meet, and I proposed the 26th for the screening meeting. We meet in executive session, and we basically, you'll have read all the files, you have had time, you'll take some notes. We don't suggest you making phone calls and reference checking at that point. Well, that comes later with the finalists, but we'll talk with you about every candidate. We put together kind of a summary sheet, a profile of all their credentials, their experience, and the notes from our reference checking. We'll have vetted all of them. And we basically just talk about it, and we reach consensus. You're still not voting. You're just reaching consensus, directing us to invite 5 or 6 people back for preliminary interviews. And it's not a vote, and it's not public, because we don't know if they're going to accept. We usually have you pick 6 and maybe an alternate, kind of depending on where the break is in the qualifications. Yeah.
so we're seeing the application, including the name, but that needs to stay confidential until
Correct.
the 5 or 6. Right? So those need confidential
Yeah.
information.
Yep.
With regard to that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then we
Until
tell,
they accept the interview.
yeah, and so once they're scheduled for an interview, then it's public, because you're going to publish that interview and let people know that on Saturday morning, these 6 people, or Saturday, these 6 people are going to be interviewed, who they are. Well, then it's open to everybody and then the phones start lighting up. That's when we earn our money. No, that's when you get some drama, it's a big deal. And so that's when that happens. So the screening report is, that's executive session. And then we work with Tammy on the schedule, and we like doing the preliminary interviews on a Saturday. It's easy for the candidates. You just gotta pick the right Saturday, of course. It's good for the observers. You don't have to get substitutes for anybody or any of that kind of stuff. So, and we typically do 4 of them in the morning, take a short break for lunch, do 2 more in the afternoon. That's all open session. And then you come back after the last interview, an executive session, and you debrief and deliberate. And that's when here again, not voting, just reaching consensus on who to invite for finalist interviews.
So could you back up?
Sure.
We're on the selection of the 5 to 6 candidates. Can you just talk a little bit about what that process normally looks like?
It's actually usually goes better than you'd imagine. So you're probably going to get 15 applicants. I think that's a pretty safe number. Could be 17, could be 12, but probably about 15. And typically, we meet ahead of time after we've vetted everybody. We talk about them, and we kind of put them in 3 buckets. One bucket is maybe 2 or 3 people that are absolutely, these people need an interview. And almost that is no questions asked. When we go around the table, almost everybody says, yep, I have them as one of my top 2. That's kind of the easy part. And then you get another 4 or 5 that are, I don't think so. Either no experience, references don't quite pan out, or their story doesn't seem to be solid, or their application, a lot of mistakes in it, that kind of stuff. So they kind of drop off the table. So then you get 6 or 8, whatever it might be, that are in the middle. That's where the work begins. So then typically it's just a conversation, and we'll tell you what we think. We won't necessarily tell you who we think the top 6 are, but we'll tell you what we think about all of those. We'll go through each candidate. This is what we heard. This is what you might be thinking about. We look at gender and diversity. We look at their experiences. The best predictor of success in a job is successful experience in a similar job over time and according to multiple people. And you get that, and those are your A group. So that's what we kind of work to. And it actually goes easier than you'd think. The cream kind of rises to the top. Sometimes you get right down to who's number 5 and who's number 6. And you might say, okay, I could go along with that, or let's make this person, maybe they're not in the top 6, but maybe they're our alternate. If somebody drops out, they move in, and we don't have to get back together, talk about that kind of thing. So it's just a consensus
And
process.
that's another reason to do 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Because if you get to the point where you just can't decide between number 5 and 6, we could invite 6. Maybe 5 will show up.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we don't need to belabor that last.
Yeah. So then on that Saturday, and then as we prepare for the semifinalist interviews, we'll submit some proposed questions, and we try to connect the dots between what the focus group people said, what the survey, if we've got some survey results, what that said, what you told us, and come up with interview questions that address your qualifications and characteristics and what the community wants and all of that. So there's some synergy with all of that. So we'll be working on interview questions. We get you the interview questions, pretty standard stuff. It's typically 12 questions, a 50-minute interview. You just kind of go around the table and ask the same question to each candidate. Usually the board chair welcomes the candidate, says you got 50 minutes for your interview. So-and-so's going to ask the first question, and you just jump right into it. And we'll have prepped the candidates so they know the layout of the room. We let them see the questions a few minutes ahead of time, not way ahead of time, so they can, use AI and generate their answer. But they get so you don't have the person reading along as you're answering the question. They kind of know what the questions are. Pretty standard HR stuff, really, when it comes right down to it. Let's see what else. Yeah, short break for lunch to 4 in the morning, 2 afternoon, and then deliberations, and then you're picking your top 3. We've done 4, maybe once or twice out of 50. We like 3 because if somebody drops out, you still have 2. You're so early that the likelihood of one of your 3 getting another job isn't very good, but you know, things can change. You know, you never
That
know.
all happens the same day.
On the Saturday?
The selection of
Yep.
of the 3.
Yep, yep. Start about 8 o'clock with the first interview. We usually have the candidates come 30 minutes before their interview. And we talk, Mark, Laurel and I greet them, talk to them about the proposed contract. Talk about that later. And talk about the interview questions, talk about what the setting is going to be for the interview, see if they have any questions. Try to get a sense out from them. Okay, if you're invited back, you know, are you going to enthusiastically accept? Are you on the bubble? You know, what's your agenda here? Try to get a sense of what, if they are offered the position, where are they going to live? What's this mean to their family? That kind of stuff. Stuff that we can kind of ask in that little casual setting that they might not want to offer up in response to one of the interview questions. So just trying to round out the information that we have so that when we talk about it and we deliberate, we can give you best information that we have. So they come a little bit early. They get about 5 or 10 minutes to look, about 10 or 15 minutes to look over the questions, and then we just jump right into the interviews. On the way out, we usually ask them if you're invited back for a finalist interview, are you going to accept? And they'll just say yes, of course. And then we move on, and then we can tell you whatever we gathered from them during the process. And then you meet an executive session and pick your 2, 3, probably 3, and we go from there. So then at that point, and then we tell them when we're going to announce the names of the finalists. And what we typically do, we do these interviews on a Saturday. We spend Saturday night making sure that we've got we notify all the candidates, first of all, the candidates that aren't moving forward. Let's see, backing up. The people that aren't invited for an interview get an email that explains a little bit about who was moving forward, why. And that kind of takes the sting out of it. If they see you're interviewing 5 people and they've all got district level experience, all state of Washington, 3 of them have got doctorates, that can go, oh, I see why I wasn't invited. So that helps with that piece of it. And then after the Saturday interviews, we have a phone call with the 3 that say you move 3 forward, 3 of them are not moving forward. We have a phone call with the 3 that are not moving forward. We talk to the 3 that are first, obviously, and get them confirmed. Then we call, we don't just send an email to those 3. We want them treated respectfully and all of that. That's very important to us. So then you've got your 3 finalists, and then we tell them when the when their name as a finalist is going to be announced. And usually we do that maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, not jumping right out of the gate Sunday morning and, you know, giving everybody too much time to work the trap lines, but giving them some time and giving us time to think about it and all of that. So then
Sorry, what happens on the Tuesday, Wednesday?
Well, that's probably a
That's-
Monday even on here, because there's 11, 12, 13. So probably on a Monday you would announce
and probably
who's coming
not,
on a
probably
Tuesday,
not on
Wednesday,
a-
Thursday.
Oh, it happens pretty quick.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
Oh,
a,
okay.
Because as soon as we get them confirmed, we could do it. We usually like to make sure that the district's got their communications in order, that Tammy's got it ready to go on
Ready
the
to go,
website
fine,
and
yeah, so.
some of that kind of stuff. And if there's any drama that we need to deal with, we want to kind of be prepared for it. Okay, so then you've got your 3 finalists. It's been made public. We've been working on the schedule. And the final interviews involve 3 days, and I've proposed March 11, 12, and 13. I think that's a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I don't know if there's a board meeting in there. Sometimes we can't do them in 3 consecutive
There's
days.
one on, March 13th.
There is there?
Yeah.
Okay.
On the Thursday, that's a board, that would be okay if, depending on how late it is. Or is that,
Because
are you thinking going into evening? We
Yeah,
usually
we
have
do.
Well,
Maybe.
your commitment on the finalist days typically is a 5 o'clock dinner, attending as an observer, a 6 o'clock community forum.
Yeah, so then it wouldn't work with the board.
What district, well, we've done about 3 different things that I can think of, and probably more. We would skip the meetings on the 13th. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We'd probably go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Let's see. When's your meeting? Thursday. or Wednesday?
Thursday.
Thursday. So we'd probably go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah,
So that would make it 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
Are those dates right?
That Monday's a non-contract day for staff.
Okay.
It's a non-contract day. That wouldn't work either. Okay, so then we'd probably have to do that Friday,
Tuesday,
11,
Wednesday,
12.
Friday.
14. Thank you, Nick.
You're welcome.
We did that one time. It doesn't,
I imagine the input from staff's a lot kind of hard.
Yeah. because
I
you,
know,
because the day, staff need to have access to the finalists as they come through, like we talked about the other day. The finalist spends the whole day in the district, starts about 7:30 in the morning. Short sessions with all the different staff groups, student group, maybe multiple student groups, possibly a drive around, maybe a drive by an elementary school to another elementary school, so they kind of get a sense of the geography. They'll have already visited the district, but still, you want to kind of have something in there that looks like a tour. So yeah, that it can still work. Or we could go a week later, maybe, I don't know.
Shouldn't there be some type of feedback loop after the meetings with community staff,
There's,
interviews and
there's a feedback loop on everything. So when the preliminary interviews,
announcement of, wait,
let me talk to you about feedback.
okay.
So what we do, anybody that has any interaction with any piece of this has an electronic survey that's linked to, that they access off of your website. So if you're interviewing John Smith at 7, 8 o'clock on Saturday and I'm observer, I go to that survey and I give you my feedback about John, and you get that in time for your deliberations Saturday, late Saturday afternoon. Same thing happens with the finalists. Throughout the day, there's a survey. So if they're meeting with the secondary teachers at 2:30 in the afternoon for 30 minutes, all those teachers have access to a survey about candidate number 1. And then by the end of the day, end of the 3rd day, after you've seen all the candidates, you get all the input from all the staff on each of the candidates. Does that make sense?
So we're getting input as we go along for each candidate.
Yeah, if we can put if the technology works, which it has, you can get input each day on that candidate. You'll get, what some people with their input like to do is save their comments till they see all 3 candidates, which is logical. And so you'll get input on candidate number 1 at the end of the day. And on candidate day number 2, you'll get candidate number 2, and on candidate number 3, you'll get candidate 3 and 1 and 2. And so you'll have lots of input.
I guess what's confusing for me is this says interviews March 11th, 12th, 13th, and then the 14th is the announcement of the final selection.
Yeah, well, now if we're interviewing on the 14th, you're probably not gonna come on Saturday morning and do that. But when it works Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, which is what I proposed, but not knowing about this other thing, the board meeting, we come back the following morning and do a special board meeting, like maybe at 9 or 10 o'clock, because you're gonna be done with that last interview with candidate number 3 about 9 o'clock. And you're gonna deliberate on the 3 candidates from about 9 o'clock to 10:30, something like that. So to come out an executive session 10:30 at night and say, we have a new superintendent, And there's nobody around, obviously. And I mean, you know, people can tune in electronically. It's done, it's been done. But we think the best form is to come back for that special board meeting. You're gonna take a roll call vote. You're gonna deliberate a little bit more just to make sure. We're gonna go over the format of the roll call vote. You're gonna take that roll call vote, and then that will be the announcement of your next superintendent. But we're gonna have to revisit that with the dates of your interview, because the following day would be the Saturday. And
We
we've
think
had-
it would work
we've had-
better to have that the final week of 1 week later? Or you think we can squeeze, if we squeeze it in on
I think that's a,
Friday, then
I
we
think
still
that's
can
a-
stick with the
I think that
Saturday.
warrants some consideration. We need to make sure that we're,
Well, so the options
so it
are,
might be the 18th, 19th, runs right into Thanksgiving. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
So,
19th, 2021.
Nick, do you have our district calendar for that?
I do, so,
Yeah.
are you still talking about
Yeah.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of March to do 18, 19, 20?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not seeing any issues there.
Yeah. I can see it.
okay.
Laurel's comments pretty
A little
accurate.
bit of a gap there.
What's that?
Oh, I guess the other option is the 11th, the 12th, and the 14th, which would be a Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's kind of where I've landed.
Yeah,
What-
that's all right with me.
What
I don't- if that's-
About the
sounds good.
possibility of doing your board meeting. I don't know your work schedules or
The
how
week
you feel
before?
about that, doing your board meeting differently.
Maybe that
Well,
work.
Friday, you're off all day, aren't you? So that's actually probably better for you.
That's what they did when they moved our board meeting when we were doing this, just moved it to the morning or
I think, yeah,
what, you know.
I
like
think
you
one
should-
district.
Well,
did it.
yeah, actually,
If you
that
did it
probably
if you
does
did
make
the-
more, yeah,
If you did
let's,
the board meeting at 4 o'clock
yeah,
on Thursday,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
then
let's
then
do
dinner
it,
with the
yeah.
candidate at
Yeah.
5 o'clock, you could stick to that timeline.
yeah, I think that makes more sense, because I think we can publicize the change in the board meeting long in
Okay.
advance.
I also would have concerns. I know we're still one of the earlier districts out of the gate, but if you postpone a week, there's a risk that someone takes a job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somewhere, and it's
Just that
painful.
gap.
It's
Particularly
painful
if
to
you,
lose a
if you
candidate
did
that you're excited
Saturday,
about.
Saturday, March 8th, and then didn't do finalist interviews, you know. Yeah,
Yeah, that's fine. I think
Change
that's
the
fine.
time.
So the finalist interviews would then be
if you stayed with
Tuesday,
11,
Wednesday,
12,
Thursday of
13.
the 11th, 12th,
That'd be good.
13th.
Yeah, and then move the board meeting to
Just move it earlier on Thursday,
earlier on
Earlier in the
Thursday.
day.
and you're already here.
Right. Okay, I think
That's,
that's good thinking. And then the meeting Saturday morning, or I mean,
Now you wanna
Friday
get it
Friday
right.
morning,
I was-
the 14th.
Yeah.
I don't know about your work schedules.
So
Somebody,
the Thursday meeting on that week, on the final week, would be- what time would the board be prepared to meet with the candidate?
At 5. You
At
have dinner
5?
with them.
Okay,
well,
so we
five is
just have to
dinner,
have our
five is
board.
dinner,
With
five is
them.
dinner with the candidate.
So we have to schedule our board meeting early enough to be
Mhm.
done.
Yeah.
Before then, so.
Well, we have to start at like 3 or so to make sure.
Okay, that makes sense. 4 PM maybe.
How do you feel about the Friday, the 14th special board meeting? Yeah.
Fine.
And then at your next regular board meeting, I think it's the 27th, that's when you offer the contract and we'll have negotiated what, Laura's gonna talk about the contract later. So the big issues for your personal calendars and for the district calendars are the Saturday, let's see, the 26th for a special board meeting for the screening report. And the Saturday, the 8th, and then the 11, 12, 13 for the finalist interviews. And then the 14th for the special person. Those are the board meeting commitments.
There was one Saturday, not two.
One Saturday.
Okay, that's what I thought.
just the 8th.
They,
And by the time we get to the 8th, you'll want to agreed on a contract for the superintendent. We'll get those questions and we don't want to leave that to the unknown. Then you can get the sample of what you have now. I know that the ESD can give you some comparative salaries that look like size districts. Gives you a little bit of time to get that organized so that you shore up a contract so that when we do get to the 8th, when we get those questions, that's not anything that you're gonna lose candidates over. We'll already know what you've agreed on. And then we do all the background checks on the year 5 or 6. We do everything. We even do that in our screening, get into people's personal profiles and see what's going on Facebook and TikTok. And then we have a third party that our organization uses for your top 3. We do another background check on the top 3 so that you feel really confident going in that this person's qualified to do the job and there's not anything scary hanging out there that anybody could find.
We're talking about expenses maybe.
Oh, yeah.
We're kind of checking off these
Yeah,
items.
some things you want to think about too, travel and moving expenses when you're thinking about contract or questions, you need to think about too. Do you want them living in your district, 10 miles out, in district, 15 miles out? Those are things that you'll all want to agree to so that when we have the conversation, whoever you select, that's already been decided cleanly. Districts do that differently depending on housing and what your community wants. And you can also think about qualifications. What matters to you? Do you want people to have a doctorate? Do you want them to have been a superintendent? Those are the kinds of conversations you'll want to have and let us know too. That helps when we get to that final screening, that those are things that you'll already answered for yourselves that kind of rank higher in order than something else. Other questions? I know we kept you. Okay.
Yeah, any more thoughts on this?
No,
I don't really, I like the calendar. That made it
yeah,
super helpful.
good. Seems like a lot of it moves pretty fast, so I like that too.
Yeah, it does, and your workload is kind of on the front end to get us to the
Yeah.
brochure. And then on the back end, when we start from the closing date on until it's done.
Mhm.
And we try to minimize that. So and maybe this was Ed's earlier question. So like on the days the finalists are in the district, you're not involved in that. And on the focus group, you're not involved in that, except for maybe your individual conversation and the community meeting. And then with the finalists, you've got your dinner and then your observer with the finalists. And it's great when you can all do everything, but if somebody can't, it's not the end of the world. You just have to kind of defer to the people that were there and heard from that person. Kind of like you have to do in a lot of things. Yeah. Questions?
I have a question. We attended a couple of sessions at WASDA last year with other districts that have gone through this process and saw some interesting approaches that other districts have used in their interview process. And one of those that really stood out to me, and I think Ed might remember this too, because you were at that session, with their finalists, they had them create a sort of digital introduction of themselves, like a little video or something that community members could watch and give feedback on if they weren't able to attend the scheduled events. And that really stood out to me. We've got a really diverse and geographically dispersed community, and to be able to give people an opportunity to get to know those finalists in a way that might be acceptable without having to drive somewhere at a specific time. Is that something that you guys have done before or helped facilitate?
We haven't, and we've talked a lot about it. And we've gotten away from, we used to have the candidate prepare a brochure. And it was, some of them were pretty sophisticated at it. And we thought that was a really good thing, and then they could bring it to the sessions and they could pass it out. Feedback that we got is, are you trying to hire somebody to do a brochure, or are you trying to hire a superintendent? And so we kind of processed that with some other people and said, what do you think about this? And it's pretty slick, it's pretty cool, but I think, first of all, you don't know if they prepared the presentation. Some people are better, just like interviews. Some people are really good at interviews, and that might not be who you want to be your superintendent. Some people are really good at preparing videos. We're not looking for a videographer here. We're looking for a superintendent. So we've drifted away from that and thinking that, let's just get to reference checks, one-on-one, individual conversations, give people multiple looks at the candidates. But we haven't done that. Not to say you can't, we can't. So that's not our forte.
Something that's in between of all of our board member meetings now are on Zoom.
Yeah.
So I would presume our open session, the Saturday one with the semifinalists is going to be on Zoom.
It could be recorded, it's
And you
recorded,
could
And
record it.
recorded, and those go.
Post it.
That's
on our
that's
website.
typically what's done.
so people could go back and watch
Yeah,
those.
yeah, but so at least they would see
8 hours.
all
of
the
it.
people.
Knock yourself
We
out.
laugh.
Yeah, I've never watched anything, but they're probably, I'm sure there are.
The
And
question we've had, and we still think you should do it, but is candidate number 4 watching candidate number 1, 2, and 3's interview. And we just take the position that, these are honorable people and they're not gonna do that. And I think that holds up. I don't know. You don't.
But what you guys could do on your
They don't
top
gain
3
that much
is
from
the
watching.
picture and a
Yeah.
bio.
You still got it.
Put that on your
Makes me
website.
more nervous.
Lots of
Yeah.
folks do that. That's what we did for
Okay,
Burlington Edison. We just had the picture, the bio, picture, the bio. That's easy. That can just go up on a Monday
Okay.
before the 3. That's
Some
what
of the candidates will have, like if you go to their LinkedIn page, they'll have links to materials like that. And once the names are made public, your staff and your all over that.
that'll be looking.
Yeah, they'll be looking. And so,
So the staff
if
is
that's somebody's
communicating with
strong
the
suit,
unions.
they'll have it marketed out there.
In other districts.
The other reason we don't do that is we don't know how to do it. Full disclosure. No, I think what we do seems to work pretty well. And even the semifinalist interview is pretty tightly structured, 12 questions, same question for every candidate. You guys all doing the same thing 6 times. It's pretty tightly controlled, but it seems to get the job done. You get a sense of seeing them a little bit, getting a glimpse anyway. You're not hiring your superintendent out of that 45-minute interview. There's lots more information before you're selecting a finalist and before you're selecting a superintendent. Okay, we've taken up enough here.
Yeah, no, and I think that's the Saturday was the semifinalists was one of the most valuable times that we spent because the community got to watch it. I had community members even years later tell me who I should have hired based on and that was valuable feedback even after the fact, based on what they knew of what they could see them in person interacting with the board. And so there's that buy-in, like, yeah, we are as a district selecting our next leader.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll clean up that timeline and send another copy to you, Russ.
Sure.
And then when you say it's done.
Yeah, it's sent both Tammy and me.
Yes, I'll do that.
And we'll,
Right,
and we'll send the final out to the rest of the board.
okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Mark Venn sends his regards. from Australia.
From
Yeah,
Australia.
And we'll
But
get it
Mark-
back out of him when he gets
That's
back.
right.
Mark will be at Was, and we're all planning on being there, so I'm sure we'll look him up.
Make him pay. All right, thanks a lot.
Nice to see
Good to
you.
see you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Tammy.
Okay, next is superintendent report.
Yeah, I'll keep it kind of short. It's some good news I shared with you all a little bit earlier via email. A little bit of background information about K3 class size compliance. The state has a requirement that we keep a ratio of 17:1 for K3 class size. That doesn't necessarily mean 17 kiddos in a classroom, because what counts towards that are classroom teachers who teach K3, PE and music teachers who teach K-3. So just kind of some backside behind that. We code our PE and music teachers as being 4/7 K3 because that's 4 of the 7 grades they teach. 20% of a special education teacher who teaches K3 counts towards that compliance. And it doesn't include library, school counselors, principals, or teachers that are funded with Title, LAP, or ML funds. So in a traditional year, traditional budget model, there are districts that can take some risks in the spring and assume that enrollment's going to come in and that you can plan at that time. We felt pretty strongly we weren't in the position to do that back in the spring, that there isn't enough room in our fund balance to take a risk. So we had to wait until our student FTE count was more concrete and more solid. In that count day being October 4th, we waited till that time frame, and we realized that with that confirmed student enrollment, that we can bring on 3 additional K3 teachers. So we'll be adding a K3 teacher at each of our elementary schools. The specific grades at this point within those schools is still to be decided, but the position posting went up yesterday. And we're excited about the opportunity to support those schools. And really, we want to acknowledge the patience that everyone's had with this process. As I've shared with you all through the budget management, what it's meant for all of our families and our colleagues is just that patience as we confirm rather than taking some risks that financially we can't afford to do. So as we share this news with the elementary school staff, there was a lot of sense of appreciation, which I greatly, which I appreciate, as you know, because they've been working hard this last month, knowing that hopefully we would come upon this. So,
And that's fully funded by the state?
that's exactly right. Yeah, so we're able to have these 3 teachers, and it's not gonna, we're not it's not gonna cost anything.
What's the time frame for when they would be able to start?
That's a good question. So we posted yesterday, mandatory 5-day posting period. Principals will be screening those applications as they come through, and then hopefully interview soon. And I mean, we have the hiccup of conferences. That takes quite a bit of time for principals and teachers that would be interviewing the teachers. But I mean, honestly, if we can get them going by the end of this month, I think we would feel pretty good about that.
So will the in those, during that 5 days, will the principals be able to figure out which grade assignment they?
Yes, that's exactly right. And so, the principals they have a good idea about where that goes, but they're also, really working hard at that leadership piece where their school leadership team gets input on it, right? So checking with the stakeholders, and they're narrowing it down on where it goes, and they'll establish that.
Would that mean that kids could have a new classroom teacher?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that is the drawback. And then in the theme of continuing to look at the state about how they do things, if they had locked in our K3 numbers in spring, we wouldn't have to wait till right now.
Yeah, the danger of having 2 or 3 teachers beyond what we're reimbursed for is too great.
Sure.
With our kind of a budget.
That's right.
We just, I would rather kids can start day 1 with that teacher, but we just can't afford that luxury in this budget situation.
And that's the exact right sentiment. I give a lot of credit to the principals in the spring last year who were saying, we know these numbers are accurate. We know they're accurate. They're not going to change. And we agreed, we believed them, we trusted them, but because of the way the funding model works, we had to wait.
Does that also mean the state could take away the funding like next October?
No, it'll just be, because it's all based on our budget, right? So when we developed that budget of the enrollment of 1448, that's where we staff that according to that 1448. But right now, we're in a pretty positive spot with our enrollment, as I've been sharing with you guys. And a part of that positive is the fact that we are eligible for this K3 money. As opposed to the other parts, you know, when we're higher enrollment than budgeted, traditionally you can use that, and this is what a lot of districts do, we'll use that to help rebuild that fund balance. But this part is just money we're leaving on the table if we don't take it.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, the K3, you don't get it unless you
Yep.
implement it.
yep, that's exactly right.
And we anticipate that these will be classroom grade level teachers.
Yep, yeah,
Not like that we're gonna offset extra time in,
yep, you're exactly right. These will be full opening of extra classrooms.
okay.
It's exciting.
Yeah, thanks, we're excited. And we know that there's, you know, thoughts about having to change teachers a quarter of the way through the school year, but hopefully in the long term, kids and families both will feel better about the situation. There's still 3/4 of the school year left.
In 2 weeks, they won't remember it
Yeah.
at that age.
Well, it's funny because even we've done this, you know, we've done this a couple times since I've been in the district, and there are times, it even happened when I was a principal and I had forgotten that even occurred in October, right? By the time June comes around, I thought that classroom had been established the whole year, because
Right.
you get into the routine pretty quickly. Kids are resilient.
And it's an opportunity to have a better teacher-student
Mhm.
ratio,
Yeah,
right? So
so no one's gonna frown on that, right?
Yeah.
Right, yep. Yeah, so that's my report.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah.
So we have meeting schedule, we have, if I remember right, our elementary school visit day is October 18th.
That's right.
And that starts, remind me of the start time.
9 AM,
What?
9 at Harney.
All 3 elementaries, and we include a little bit of time for lunch.
Yep. And so a couple things, I know that 4 of you can be there. Can you guys remember me which one?
it's on the 18th.
Yeah,
I'm out of town.
okay, so it'll be you 4 and then, are you able to be there?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And then I don't know if you guys want to establish plans for lunch yet, but I think last time we just swung by North Fork.
You can do that if you want.
And then next school board meeting is October 24th.
Have pizza again.
And then the secondary school visit is the 1st of November, so.
Yeah,
And
I am.
all 4 of you are able to go to the November 1st, is that correct?
Yes,
I
I
will
can.
miss that one.
Okay,
So that's everything, so meeting adjourned. Thank you.
thank you.
thanks.
Sign our papers and